Yes, it's November, the November edition of Littleton Common, and we're very excited because this is kind of the unofficial start of the holiday season and the most important event of the year. Is that Thanksgiving, you ask? No, it's not. It's Barbara McRae's birthday month, November 17th.
Exactly. And you know, I'm a Scorpio, and be careful, be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see, I'm turning 83.
Wow.
And I think it's great age to become. I'm so happy to be here and still be able to do all the things I love to do. You know, I was raised to believe that counting years was not important. It's just a number, and it's only what you make it. I never have had time to put a stamp on each year, and there is no time to care about it. Keeping busy is so important because all you need to think about is what to do next.
Right.
Oh, well, now, Lord willing, I will live to a few more years, and I'll learn how to sit and read, which is hard for me.
Yeah.
And do some painting, and maybe create another Senior Follies.
Well, those are all good things that you like to do.
Yeah.
You know, the sitting part, maybe not so much, but unless you're painting, you can sit and paint, but
Right.
you're usually, and that's important, you know, for people to remember that it's always good to be active. And doctors and everybody like that recommend 30 minutes of movement a day, whether it's, you know, I don't know, just something.
Yeah.
Get your heart moving a little bit.
Yeah, and I figure that if there's some weird reason that I'm not able to do a lot of walking around or something, and if I ever needed a wheelchair, that would be very active too, because I would make sure that I'm still all over the place. But yeah, I'm gonna really have to work at reading. No, that's my husband's thing, but not mine. But
Well,
I'll try.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And Scorpio, I'll remember that.
You know, talking now about Littleton, I'm so glad that we came alive in October. There was an Oktoberfest sponsored by Park and Rec and the Unitarian Church, put on at, it was a little smaller, but it was a welcoming fair. It got people out and seeing humans again, and we have to do more of that.
Yeah, that's important.
So on Friday, November 5th at 7:30 p.m., the Littleton Lyceum presents Maria Isaac and her Birds of Prey. And they said this is a family-friendly program and will be exciting for children and adults of all ages. Discover our New England birds of prey. Maria will use live non-releasable animals and artifacts such as skulls and skeletons, and use them as teaching tools.
Teaching stools.
Yeah.
You could sit on a skull.
We're sitting on a stool. Okay.
Well, say that 10 times fast.
Well,
you know, the Lyceum is awesome. I'm glad that they're having their programs again.
Yeah.
You know, after a whole year of not being able to do that. They did some virtual things, but, you know, it's the longest continuously running Lyceum in the country. And it's
they're
nice
great.
Yeah, they are great. It's good to be back.
Good programs all the time. Now the veterans are going to be welcome to enjoy a casual breakfast at the Senior Diner on November 10th, and that's at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is sponsored by River Court Residences and Friends, but you have to call 978-540-240 to register. Have to register, please.
540-2470. Okay. You mentioned that Veterans Luncheon is on the 10th?
Yes.
But Veterans Day is the 11th?
Yes.
So it's the day before?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's gonna, you can join us on the Common November 11th, and that's at 11 o'clock for a Veteran Day ceremony, followed by a wreath laying, visits to the old burying grounds, World War I at Shattuck Street, the Historical Society Building, Beaver Brook, and West Lawn Cemetery.
You know, at the old library, the Houghton Memorial, there's a Civil War monument there. Did you know that?
Yeah, Alan checks on all the Civil War things.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that the town had a Civil War monument. That's interesting.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, December 4th, you know, some good news for the people who may have heard already, but the Holiday Bazaar will be back. And it's going to be December 4th at the Littleton Middle School, as usual. And I was able to catch up with Millie McGovern and Nancy Morrison, and they're going to tell us all about that right now. All right, well, as promised, I'm here with Nancy Morrison and Millie McGovern. You know, Millie, you're like Cher. You know, if you say the name Millie around town, everybody knows who Millie is, you know. But we're here to talk about the Holiday Bazaar, and it's back again in person this year. So why don't you give us a date and tell us some things about it, if you would, either one of you.
Okay, Nancy.
December 4th. It'll be at the middle school gym from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. There'll be a lot of the nonprofit organizations in Littleton. They've already registered, and a lot of the students from the schools have already registered. So should be a good day.
All right. And originally they said the middle school may not be available, right? But then they came through at the last minute, I guess?
Well, it got changed because of the COVID restrictions, and now the COVID restrictions have been lifted a little bit. So now it's been changed. The cafeteria kids are now eating in the cafeteria.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. What kind of things can't people do because of the restrictions? Are masks required and things like that?
Yes, you have to wear a mask 100% of the time you're in the school. That is a school rule, and also the Neshoba Board of Health and the Littleton Board of Health. So you'll wear a mask. And if you bring in any food, it has to be pre-packaged. It cannot be open containers.
Okay. And what about Santa, pictures with Santa? Is that still happening this year?
Yes, Santa is happening this year. He'll either be in the gym or he'll be right outside the gym doors before you enter in.
Okay, and you don't need to wear a mask when you're outside with Santa, right?
No, you can have pictures taken without a mask with Santa.
Okay.
If you're outside.
Right.
If they put you back inside because the weather's really bad, then you'll have to have a mask on, kids.
Okay. Millie, how many years have you been doing this bazaar? Do you know?
No, Nancy, what was the date that it actually started? It's
1959, Millie.
in 59, and it was my grandmother. And you remember many years ago we had an organization, the Grange?
Sure.
They were very much a part of it. And my mother and my grandmother were legionnaires, or what would they call it? Daughters of the Revolution, or some whatever.
Could have been one of those.
Yes, and I can remember my oldest child being with my mother during the day down at the fair. It was called many different things, but the interesting thing was that, of course, they made everything. They worked. They started in the summer, just like they do now, from the houses and everything, and made all hand good products. And they also had cooking. They had good food, and it just continued on and blew up until it got so big that it really got organized and started charging for the tables. They didn't have anything like that to begin with.
Yeah.
It was just everybody. But it was in the gym, which is now where you are.
My studio, that's right.
Yes, yes.
Well, we're excited that it's back this year. Of course, last year we tried to do something virtual. I don't think it had the same success, although it was fun to put together and talk about the organizations and whatnot. But as far as people being able to sell their goods and make, it's a big money raiser for many organizations, right?
Yep, it is definitely good. Organizations make quite a bit of money on those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is good.
Well, it'll be great to be, what, you were going to say something?
Yeah, but aside from the money, it was a great thing years ago,
Yeah.
because that's when everybody got together, and they did a lot of quilting then, and it was the big time of the end of the year.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
small town tradition, and we should keep those things going,
Yes.
whatever it takes.
And keep our community the way it should be, working together.
Right.
And,
Absolutely.
and give everyone, young and old, something to do.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you two ladies, because you've done this for 13 years in a row, and someone has to step up and do it. And sometimes people just think these things happen magically, but there are real people, real faces behind the scenes who are working really hard. And I know that when as soon as they found out they were going to have the bazaar, I talked to Nancy like within a day or two, and she had contacted like 100 different people. So, thank you for that, and thank you, Millie, for just stepping up every year and keeping this thing going. We really appreciate it. So.
It's fun being here. Thank
fun.
you, Bonnie.
And you should mention, Mark, too, there will be food. The Littleton Cafe is going to make the food, and the high school cafeteria girls are going to serve it.
Great.
So there will be food at the bazaar, like always.
Okay. Well, we hope to see you all at the bazaar. That's Saturday, December 4th.
Correct.
And it's the time one more time?
9 to 3.
9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the old spot, the Littleton Middle School. So come on out and have a great time. So isn't that great to be back? You know, it's tough to nail those ladies down. You know, the fact that
They work hard.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah, and it's been great because, you know, someone needs to spearhead this type of stuff. And the fact that they've done that every year, you know, just out of the goodness of the holiday spirit, I guess, you know, and it's been great. We're really excited about this year being back at the middle school. So hopefully everyone can come out, have a great time, get their pictures with Santa and all that stuff.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And they do a great job, and I hope that they can continue for many years to come.
Me too. So the new library is opening this month, and as we're taping this show, that's scheduled, the ribbon cutting is scheduled for November 4th. That's a Friday, and then the next day they're going to have a whole bunch of activities planned at the library, but you know, it's still up in the air. I was talking to one of the librarians this week, and they said that it's possible, one of the trustees, she said it's possible that that date may not happen. So just know that as we tape this, that is the plan, you know, when we're taping this, but it's possible it could be pushed out because they just don't, the movers were backed up, and they're just not quite on schedule that they wanted to be on. So
Well, look at the size of it. They probably have a lot of work to do.
they do have a lot of work to do. You know, I've been looking out my window here at the palatial LCTV studios, and I was able to see, you know, them moving. It's been rainy kind of the last couple weeks, and it's been tough to get all that done. But
Yeah, this week's going to add to that too.
yeah, so. But speaking of the library, there was a longtime librarian, Andy Curran, who has retired. And so I was able to sit down with her and just ask her some of her memories and just to share some thoughts on her retirement. So let's watch that right now. Okay, I'm here with Andy Curran now, and Andy, thanks for being here.
Nice to be here with you again.
Yes. We had many people comment on the Andy and Mark show from years ago, you know, and that was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Well,
but
sort of, yeah.
yeah. So we're here to talk about you. You know, I know you don't like to talk about yourself a lot. You know, you're more other focused, but you know, you are retiring, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions as you walk out the door.
Okay.
So first of all, how long have you been at the library?
I've been full-time for 35 years, but I worked part-time for a little while before that.
Is this something you always wanted to be, a librarian, or how
No.
did you come about that?
I mean, I've always been a big reader. Both my parents were big readers. My brother, not so much. And my mother was the children's librarian, and I had graduated from college and was sort of, I was still in college, I think, when I started. And I sort of started college late. I was 25. And I had a degree in psychology, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, and tried substitute teaching for a year. I don't recommend that, especially in the middle school. And my mother said, someone left at the library, and Mom said, well, you know, maybe you'd like to pick up their shift. And so hiring was a lot different back then, you know, and I said, sure. So I started working there, and I was in charge of putting books away and waiting on people and in charge of magazines. And then I just moved up from there.
Now, of course, this was at the old library back on the Houghton building, I guess.
Houghton, yes.
Houghton, yeah.
Yeah, that was, and in fact, I was going to bring that up later about that. I was among the people who physically moved, you know, into this building. And
what year was that? Do you remember?
I think it was '89. And that was an ordeal because even though, like this time, we will be having library movers. There are companies that specifically move libraries. And you know, they have all the proper materials to, you know, like these rolling shelves and stuff. But back then the problem was that, I don't know if you remember, but the nonfiction was upstairs.
Yeah.
There was an upstairs in that building, there is not now. And it had sort of this spiral metal staircase, definitely not handicap accessible. And so the movers were going to move the stuff, but we had to pack it. Everything else they packed. And so we worked in teams of one of the librarians and a volunteer. And the books were dusty and dirty and heavy, and by the end of it, we all felt like we had the flu. Everybody was coughing and sneezing and had sore throats, and their bodies were killing them. And I vowed at that time that I would never move again, that I was never going to go through that again. So here we are, again, moving.
Yeah, so much for that vow.
Yeah.
So that building was haunted, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, it gave me the creeps.
Why would it be haunted?
It gave me the creeps sometimes because, you know, the floors creaked, and it just reminded me of the library in Ghostbusters, you know, when the ghost comes out. I don't know, just it is kind of not the brightest, you know, lights and everything.
Right, well, it was, yeah. I mean, it's funny because if you go in the Historical Society now, which is that building, it looks totally different because they removed the stacks in the back. So originally there were stacks that went up 2 stories, and that's what held the floor up. And I don't remember it, but apparently a long time ago there was a glass floor. I mean, not like it was opaque, but it allowed light to come through. And then by the time I came along, it was they put linoleum or something over it. But I think Earl Banks and the Boy Scouts, I believe, removed the floor there. It's a big job because the stacks were made out of cast iron. We still have some here, and there are some still at the Houghton building. But that's what held the floor up. But that's what made it look dark to you, is because you know, there were all these stacks and very small windows.
Right.
And now they took the stacks out, and it's all big and bright and open. There's less room that way, but.
Well, quite a difference for you, I suppose, moving from that building than to here, which had much more space, but still had its limitations. And now you're getting ready to move into a brand new building, which is like state of the art. And
yeah, and it's, I know people have been complaining that it looks kind of dingy on the outside. I think the idea behind that was to make it sort of blend in with the woods behind it. But when you go in it, it's just, you know, floor to ceiling windows and lots of light.
Yeah.
And
the color of the carpet.
It's all, the children's room, it has a lot of bright colors in it, the young adult area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a much more attractive building.
It is. It's open, it's spacious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really going to be quite the gem, the jewel, I think, for people of Littleton to be able to use.
Once we get in there.
Right, once we get in there. So, over the years, what are some of your favorite memories of that you can recall? Give me 1 or 2 that you've, just some things that stick out in your mind as like happy times, or maybe not happy times.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I mean, that's when I was gonna talk about the moving. But the other thing that I think about that I think that was the most fun for me, and one of the best things we ever did, was when we had the book cart drill team in the 300th parade. And that was, so libraries have these book cart drill teams where they often, you know, put things to music and they do these dance moves and stuff, but they also can be used in a parade in which you move. So it's sort of like contra dancing or something, but you're moving along as you're doing it. You know, everybody has a route that they take, they follow another person, and you make these loop-de-loops and stuff. And so I remember practicing in the parking lot out here, and you guys all, you know, from the town offices were all looking out the window at us. And so we figured out what we were doing, and we didn't figure, though, in that it was going to be whatever it was, 97 degrees that day. It was bad. And I think it was so much fun because we met at St. Anne's, and unless you were there at St. Anne's, you didn't quite understand what it was like. I mean, you heard bagpipes and drums and trumpets and horses neighing, and I mean, it was just crazy. And all these people, you know, in their groups, and then one by one, we were told to go. It was our turn, and I think we were number 6 in line. And we started off, and we were doing great, and I remember getting as far as the Houghton building, and the temperature just, I mean, we were lucky we were number 6, because some people, it was even hotter for them. And I remember getting to the Houghton building, and the book cart drill team people were James Tabor, Diane Haddock, the children's librarian, Jean Sill, Jenna Cantino, and Cheryl Hardy-Faraci, and myself. And I remember we were doing one of the routines in front of the Houghton building, and I thought I was going to die. I was so hot. And I remember going by Cheryl, and Cheryl looking at me and going, "Are you all right?" And I said, "No." And we kept going, though, and we got as far as, and everybody was cheering, you know, library, yay, you know, and we got as far as the Baptist church, and I thought, I'm not going to make it. I mean, already, all you could hear were sirens because people were passing out left and right. The people from New Orleans said, "We had no idea it got this hot here." And so I looked at the Baptist church, and there was shade. And I turned to Jenna Cantino and I said, I can't finish. I mean, I could see IBM from there, but I thought if I kept going, I was going to pass out. So I just took a right-hand turn and parked my book cart and laid on the ground. And the Baptists were wonderful. They gave me water, they put ice on me, and they were just terrific. And I think that was a really cool thing that we did, and it's something that nobody had ever done before, because they, you know, who has book cart, you know, in Littleton, and it was a really good time.
Well, that's in a case of you taking your show on the road.
Yeah, right.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's great. Were there another memory, or did you?
No, just in general, I just have enjoyed interacting with the patrons over the years. You know, I mean, people have. I love it when someone calls and says, "I have a weird question," and you know it's going to be something fun and interesting, and I don't know. We have great people in this town, and I've just enjoyed helping them find information over the years, and interacting with them, and also the staff. I mean, we have a terrific staff at our library, and everybody cares very much about what they do.
Yeah,
I think that comes across.
It does. It sure does. And would you recommend a psychology degree for anyone taking your place? Does that help?
Well, actually, the person who is taking my place, I think she has a psychology degree.
Perfect.
Yeah, in fact, almost some people have library degrees, but people are apt to have English degrees, and it comes in handy. You know, people will know things that other people don't know. And
right.
Yeah, psychology degree definitely helps.
Right, and of course, over the years, the library has evolved and changed. You've got, you know, do you even use the Dewey Decimal System now?
Oh, yeah.
You use it, but you don't have the card index. Everything's
No,
on.
but everything, you look it up on, well, like we did at the Mark and Andy show, where
Right.
you would look it up, and then that indicates to you where to find it.
Right, and of course, people can get books via downloads now.
Yep,
They've
yep.
got movies, DVDs, you've got...
Especially since COVID. I mean, a lot of people, because we were closed for a while, that was the only way people could get things,
Yeah.
Was to download stuff. And then eventually we reopened for curbside for quite a while, and then people could order things and come and get it, and we would bring them out. And yeah, we all decided after curbside we were going to start putting on weight, because we had to run up and down the stairs. And sometimes you'd run down the stairs and the person would say something, and you'd run up and then it wasn't there. You'd run back down and, oh, well, maybe it's under my husband's name. And then you'd run back up and, yeah, I mean, one Saturday I counted, and I went up and down the stairs 40 times.
Oh, wow.
And the other people I worked with, one of them definitely did it more than that, and the other one a little bit less. But that was sort of a typical...
Just one day.
You're right, right.
So now that you're retiring, what are your plans for life?
Well, you know, we'll see what happens, but I'm already a board member at the Historical Society. I'm the newest board member.
Oh, excellent.
And I would like to do more there. I already volunteered there on Wednesday afternoons, but you know, I would like to be able to put more time in there. Also, I intend to, even though I won't actually be working for the library when we move, I told them I had not intended this to happen. I thought we were going to be in by now, and then I was going to help get settled over there, and then I would be gone. But now we're waiting on furniture, but we're also waiting on the movers got backed up because all the other libraries were waiting on furniture too. So I'm going to help out in the new library also. I think I'll like to set up the historical room there. That's sort of my baby, you know. And I mean, you know, I know more about Littleton history than many people.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So those two things sort of go hand in hand. And I'm a conservation land steward as well, and I will try to be more diligent about my property. Well,
you'll have a little more time on your hand for that.
Right, and I like to hike and bicycle and kayak and things like that. And so weather permitting, or maybe even weather not permitting, I will try to keep up with those things. And see a lot, quite a few of my friends are retired already, so I'll be able to spend more time with them.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to thank you again for being here. I also wanted to thank you on behalf of the town for all the years of service and the smiling face and the help that you give people. And just, you know, I know I've said this to you before, I'm going to miss you and miss your face and miss your interactions that we had, because I think we had a fun time ribbing each other. And,
yes.
you know, I'm going to have to find a new person in there to pick on, because, or get picked on, whatever the case may be. But I'm sure I'll see you around, and again, just thank you so much for all your years.
Well, thank you for saying that, Mark.
You're welcome. Andy Curran, everyone.
Did you know that there are plans for a senior center too?
Of course,
They've been working on that, and it would be nice if the decision about the senior center, you know, happens while some of us can still enjoy it. Volunteering for the Council on Aging and the Friends of the Council on Aging, I've found that the friends I have made, you know, can be for a long term or very short term. So it has to be used diligently. 10 to 20 years is a lifetime for some of our seniors, and the end of a lifetime for others. So we need a place of our own, while some who have advocated for it can still enjoy it. We could hold workshops on flower arrangements, like the holiday demonstration we had with Linda Gianetta. And I had a great time getting a lesson with Linda. But you can watch it on Uncommon interviews.
Oh, great.
Yeah, she'll be there a lot. So
she's a nice lady.
Yeah. You know, Park and Rec also has some pretty good programs, and they're available right now. So check online and pick up some brochures and find out what they're doing.
Okay.
Welcome back to Critter Corner. This month we have a question submitted by one of our viewers in regards to whether or not shock collars used either over the counter or in certain businesses are safe for your pet. First, to understand what a shock collar is intended to do, let's talk briefly about reward and punishment. When we are training, whether it's a person, a dog, a cat, we are talking about rewards is usually the most common way to get your pet to do something you want them to do. That's really called positive reinforcement. Every time you do something right, you get a reward. It's the most effective way to teach something to an animal or person. But there is also something called negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is when something happens in response to something that you do, but you want to avoid that response. You want to avoid what comes after it. So an example might be when you drag your feet on the carpet in wintertime and you get a static shock when you touch your light post, and that hurts. We might pick our feet up when we walk or tap something without actually putting our finger to get that shock. So that's an idea or an example of what negative reinforcement is. It's not so far different from punishment. Punishment is when you do something and something bad happens to you, but you know it's coming. And punishment is not effective at all. It doesn't really deter the behavior. We learn to tolerate the punishment. And so negative reinforcement can actually, when it's not used appropriately, come off as punishment. And when it ends up coming off in punishment, then you're overusing that negative reinforcement, and that's detrimental to that learning curve. And this is where shock collars come in. A shock collar is that static shock. It is that I don't want to do that because every time I do that, I get a shock. If it's done appropriately, it's highly effective. When it's not done appropriately, it starts to become a punishment, and then it does detract from the learning curve, but it also may become cruel to the animal. When we use shock collars, I highly recommend you use it with a company who works well. So here's an example, the Canine Fence Company or Invisible Fence Company. Their job is to come out and install a wire in your yard, and that wire transmits a signal to the collar, so when the dog or cat gets too close to that wire, it triggers that shock. But they don't just give you the wire and the collar and send you off into the sunset. It comes with training sessions. So a trainer comes to your house, they teach you and your animal how to respect that boundary and reward them for doing a good job when they avoid the boundary. So they're also interspersing that positive reinforcement. Another type of shock collar is one that is actually radio operated. You use a device like a remote control. So when the animal's not listening to you, you give them a warning beep and then a shock. That one I'm a little bit more worried about unless you work with a trainer or a company that teaches you how to use the collar. And actually over time, the dog just needs to hear the beep and the shock never happens. So usually the shock is only needed for maybe the first couple of weeks of training when it's used effectively. So I'm not so put off by shock collars when they are used appropriately, but when they're not, then we have problems. Another device that I find can be overused is something called a pinch collar or a choke collar. These are chain collars on dogs that are used to give a correction, but many people put it on their dog and let their dog just pull so that this chain is choking them without actually realizing you're supposed to give a tug and release the collar so the dog gets that correction in the moment. As a matter of fact, most trainers these days have moved completely away from a pinch collar and a choke collar. This is just coming up because I had a client in recently who had a trainer that taught them on a pinch collar, and I was a little surprised. Great alternatives to pinch collars. There is a company that provides something called the Easy Walk Harness, and the other product is called a Gentle Leader, which is a head collar. I love both of these products because they control your dog's behavior, and usually these collars are used when you're out on a walk. If you're out on a walk with your dog and your dog is pulling, the pinch collar is supposed to give them that correction to stay. But a lot of dogs are just so excited, they don't listen to that correction. So the Easy Walk harness looks like a regular harness, but it does have a band that goes across the dog's shoulders just below the shoulder joint. What that does is it doesn't let them extend their arm to get that pull. But the other nice thing about it is it clips right on the chest. So why is that important? When your dog is pulling ahead of you, they're thinking about what's ahead. They're not listening to you because this is far too more exciting. With the Easy Walk harness, that buckle here will literally turn their body towards you as they try to pull, which forces them to pay attention to you. And then your normal training kicks in, where you talk to your dog, you get them to relax, you get them to sit, you get them to stay, without pulling on their neck. The head collar I use for dogs that are a lot more exuberant, where they aren't listening to the Easy Walk harness. The difference is that it buckles under here. And there's a little band over the nose. And those a lot of times are trickier, harder to use, so talk to your veterinarian about using those. We welcome any questions or topics from our viewing audience, so if you have an idea for a future episode of Critter Corner, please let us know.
Well, football season is winding down for the high school and also the other fall sports. They've done very well this year. The football team is not as good as past years, but they're great to watch. Yeah. They're in every game, and they're very exciting. The field hockey team is in the playoffs. They're only 2 games away from the championship right now as we tape this, so hopefully things go well for them. Same good with the girls soccer program. Fall athletics are strong here in Littleton. They've had some very successful teams. And what we're going to do next show for our December show is we'll kind of preview the winter sports, but we'll also give a recap of the fall sports to show the final standings and stuff like that, so people can.
Excellent.
You know. And of course, all our football games are on LCTV. We cover all the home and away games, and people can watch those live or on demand.
All right.
So we've got that going for us. So, our friend Bill Vales, he's got his computer classes here at Town Hall. Actually, I think he's via Zoom still, Zoom sessions.
Yeah.
But he's only got 2 classes this month. November 4th, they're going to be talking about the cloud, what is it, and how to use it safely. And then there's no class on November 11th for Veterans Day. And then on November 18th, it's going to be sharing information on the web. That includes Dropbox, Google Drive, and then there's no class on Thanksgiving. You know, these Thursdays
Why?
this month. Yeah, this month the Thursdays are busy. And then I believe that's it for the month. So, but if you're interested in those classes, those computer classes, they're very, very informative.
He's good.
He's excellent, very good teacher.
Yeah.
You can call the COA 978-540-2470 and sign up and get a Zoom link.
Good. I do want to mention something briefly.
Yeah.
That I had an interview with Susie Glines, and it's about aeroponic gardening. Very interesting, and you can do it all year long. So I would like to.
It looks pretty funky too, with the hanging things and the way they do that.
Yeah, they have this. She has this big metal or plastic thing.
Well, let Susie do the explaining on that.
Yeah, but it has water in it, and she also can plant little plants on different levels and grow a lot of different things. And in fact, she even tells us in this that you can take one inside and do this all year long.
Wow, that's
so that's
great.
good. Yeah.
That's good.
Hi, I'm Susie Glines. I live in Littleton. I'm a happy gardener here, and I want to tell you how you can grow a large amount of produce in a very small space with no soil, no weeding, 90% less water, in a fraction of the time of traditional gardening, like about 2 to 3 weeks. No pests. I mean, this is amazing. This is called aeroponic gardening. So this particular garden here has 20 ports. And in each of the ports, you put a seedling in medium of rock wool or corcoy, which is a medium from coconut husks. And you can grow the most amazing amount of produce you won't believe. I have here, I use like the lettuces on the top, and then in the middle, maybe some more dense vegetables, and on the bottom, the denser vegetables like tomatoes, zucchinis, just about everything you can think of except for root vegetables. You can get fresh veggies every day and pick them just as you need them, so there's no waste. And let me tell you, we all know how much food is wasted. It's amazing. Like I said, you grow it 2 to 3 weeks faster, so you put the plants in and they just start growing. And you're churning out. I'm just going to bet here. I've got this. Look at this. This just came the other day after rain. And I also have a little pepper in here. I've got kale, Swiss chard, all kinds of, you get to plant all kinds of different lettuces, things you'd never really want to try and bend down and pull out in your own garden. No bugs or pests, rabbits. That is what really amazed me, because I feel like I live in like the Discovery Channel with rabbits and turkeys and deer and chipmunks and the squirrels, you know, roaming around eating everything in the garden. but they don't even come near. So it is really cool. Now you probably want to know, how does this work? Well, there's a reservoir on the bottom, and this particular garden holds 20 gallons of water. I also add a mineral blend to it, and there's a pump in the bottom, and it pumps this water right up and down this tower, which takes 20 minutes to put together. It's just blocks with the ports on all the sides, and this mineral water just goes up and down at a set time. There is a timer, and it soaks the roots, and so you're getting like really good quality produce. It's all organic, it's all natural. So there's another thing, no pesticides. I mean, it's just amazing, all that backbreaking work that I also love in my back garden. But I just like this because I can come right out, oh, it's time for a salad, boom, pick a few leaves and make, and oh, I'm gonna have some of these gold tomatoes. Yum! Mmm, sweet, delicious. And you know, when I like to entertain in the summer. When I have a dinner party, this is so enchanting, hearing the water pumping through. And it's like having a water feature, and you can just pick what you need right away, no waste. I just think it's a really fantastic thing. Now down here in my little area is where the water goes. And how do I take care of it? Well, I just have to check the water once a week, and I use a yardstick, and at 10 inches we figured out that, well, that's the 20 gallons. And so I just measure that and then add some more water and add nutrients to it, and that's it. Just make sure after a rainstorm that the pump's still working. So you really just need the electrical access outside. These gardens are not all, you can actually bring these in the house. It's not just for outside. There are smaller versions where you can do your lettuces and your greens and your herbs and bring it inside with lights. Wonderful. And while we're talking about inside, one of the things I'm so passionate about with this feature of aeroponic gardening is there are lesson plans available for this type of gardening in schools. And it's amazing. The kids just love it. They learn how to eat plant-based food. They love to participate. And again, no garden, no dirt, and bending down. It's just very easily accessible. So it's very eco-friendly. It's safe. It's USDA approved food grade plastic, and fresh veggies every day. And just think that it's like my favorite thing. I've had this for 5 years. You can even have flowers, and I've seen people even grow melons on them. But I'm just very excited. I have some small little plants that I just put in because I'm getting ready to wheel this in and put my lights on and continue eating fresh, wonderful produce. I really see this as a future in our generation of farming, aeroponic farming, big gardens. Lots of restaurants use it. Lots of schools use it, and their group gardens. They're just great. So thank you so much for giving me this time to show you how you can have a lot of fun with this aeroponic gardening. Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
That's good. Flowers add so much you know, niceness. I think I told you last show my wife started putting mums around the house and on the porch, and just coming home, you know, you see these nice flowers there. It adds so much.
Sure.
Gets you in a good mood.
And they come back every year.
They do.
Yes.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you take them out of the pot and plant
Leave them in the, yeah, take them out of the pot, put them in the ground, and you'll see them start in the spring.
Okay.
They'll be green until it's time for the flowers to come. But they move on, they grow.
Oh, wow. Well, that's great to know. I did not know that. See?
There you go. Tell Amy.
I will tell Amy. Now, well, that pretty much wraps it up for the November edition of Littleton Common. I want to wish you all, and you, Barbara, and Alan, and your family, a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. And
yeah. Well, I want people to remember, when thinking about the future, don't forget the people from the past. So don't forget our seniors.
That's right.